We are just a few days away from Georgia's massive game against Alabama this weekend in Tuscaloosa. And Kirby Smart had a lot to say about Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe earlier this week. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. I'm going to explain Kirby Smart's comments about Jalen Milroe because he is obviously a big fan of the Crimson Tide quarterback who is really the only quarterback to beat Georgia in the last 2 years, right? Between 21 and 22, Georgia's only lost one game, and it was to this young man in Atlanta. It's going to be a really, really tough game for Georgia's defense, and Kirby Smart spoke about that earlier this week. Here were his comments on the Alabama quarterback. He said he's made a considerable jump as a natural pocket passer, which is true. Everyone knows that he is an electric runner. He's incredibly fast. He's got burst, acceleration. He is a dynamic playmaker and runner. But he has become better as a passer, as a quarterback. I now think he is a good quarterback. Whereas, last year, even after they beat Georgia, I looked at him as just a really good athlete with natural arm talent, but not the best quarterback. He did make some throws and make some plays with his legs and his feet against Georgia. But he is becoming a better passer, and that's not what you want to hear if you're a Georgia fan. But he also said you see him make more throws now that are like rhythm throws, on-time throws, RPO throws. You could tell he's become more comfortable with those things. Still, some of his best and most exciting plays are when things break down or when he runs the ball by design. Either one is dangerous, but you can see him as a deep ball passer, the vertical passing game, the shots down the field, the rhythm throws, the outs, the timing throws, the RPO throws. He's improved immensely at that part of his game, and he's always been good at the athletic part of his game. And I do think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach, and it does seem like Jalen Milroe is playing really good football right now from, an arm standpoint, a quarterback standpoint. The throw he made to Ryan Williams, 31 yards, I believe it was that first touchdown against Wisconsin. That was a dime. That was a ball right on the money. That was a perfect throw, 30-plus yards down the field through the air, right? And it was a perfect ball for a touchdown. The kid can throw the ball deep. He's not, consistently accurate, but man, he gives you at least 1, 2, sometimes 3 just beautiful deep balls down the field. And they're going to stretch Georgia's defense. It's up to Georgia's front seven to get to him. But how do you attack him while containing him? I think that's going to be a big challenge. But Georgia's gone up against, dual threat quarterbacks, in the past and already this year, right? Cade Klubnik has looked like one of the best players in the country since not being able to do anything against Georgia's defense. They attacked him and they contained him. Same with Brock Vandagriff. He made some plays with his legs early on, but if I remember correctly, he became less and less throughout the game. But he's a kid who can run and throw. Not as good as maybe we thought out of high school, right? But, Georgia's been able to practice and design a game plan around for a dynamic dual threat quarterback. But those guys can't run like Jalen Milroe. I mean, the kid is absolutely electric. You have to get to him, right? You have to get him on the ground. I think Georgia sacked him like 6 times. Am I making that up? I don't think so. I'm talking about in the SEC championship game that Georgia lost. They sacked him multiple times. They were in the backfield. But even with those sack yards, he still rushed for almost 30 yards with all those sacks. So he was getting his share of yards on the ground. But you have to hit him. You have to get him to the ground. You have to pressure him and cause havoc in the backfield. But if you do that and don't get to him, there's going to be running lanes left and right. And this kid's going to take advantage of that. So, he doesn't necessarily have to beat Georgia with his arm. I wouldn't say he beat Georgia with his arm last, December. He made enough plays with his arm. But it was a complete team win. It was not like Jalen Milroe put this team on his back and won the game. And that doesn't have to happen in Tuscaloosa. All he has to do is, get some explosive plays offensively, but not turn the ball over. If he takes care of the football and makes smart decisions, they are going to move the ball on Georgia, and they probably will get in the end zone more than once, right? But, Kirby Smart is obviously, he knows what type of player Jalen Milroe is, and he knows that he's a player that is improving. I got more quotes that I'm going to talk about in just a second, and we're going to dive into some numbers that Jalen Milroe has put up. But first, before I forget, because I will, collegebronze.com, that's where you can get this bad boy right here. It's the best looking #1 Georgia Bulldog statue on the market, and this is the only place where you can get a discount. Promo code DOGPOST, DAWGPOST, dog post. Don't miss out on the discount, right? Remember that rhyme. You can order yours in the description below in this video. That's where the link is, where you can read the 5-star reviews and where you can order yours. You want it for the fall, right? If you get it now, you might have it in time for these big games coming up. But all the information is in the description below in this video. So, how do you attack and how do you contain Jalen Milroe? This is what Kirby had to say. He said, with Milroe, the challenges are immense because he's an incredible football player. There is no design to a play that you can draw up and say, well, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen on this play with him, because you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is cover everybody with him, and sometimes the best thing you can do is cover everyone. I think the transcript they sent me was a little off there. He said it just depends. Basically, what he's trying to say, what I'm trying to say, is that there is no specific game plan to stop him. You have to execute, right? If you're in the secondary, you've got to be able to play disciplined football and know how to run and cover deep down the field. But you got to get pressure on him, and you have to play gap assignment. You have to do your job. You have to blitz properly. You have to make sure everyone's on the same page. You have to be, if you're Raylan Wilson, C.J. Allen, Small London, you've got to make sure he doesn't get to the perimeter and up the field. You've got to run him down. You've got to chase him down, and you've got to tackle well. Not only is he a really good player as far as shedding tackles and picking up yards after first contact, but so are the running backs. They've got 2 to 3 reliable backs that, have a chance to have a nice game if the Alabama offensive line is as good as a lot of people think. They could be one of the best offensive lines we've seen, but Jalen Milroe is a dynamic talent that I'm not sure we're going to see from someone for the rest of the season. Not like him, right? Not as fast as him or as explosive as a runner as he is. He brings something different that I don't think Georgia is going to see from Quinn Ewers or Jackson Dart or Nico, long last name in Tennessee. I will get that eventually. I don't care about his last name right now. It doesn't matter to me. He's got to make some plays against the Dogs, and then I'll learn the kid's last name. His first name is Nico. That's all I know, and that's all I'm going to go with. But he doesn't bring the same skill set as Jalen Milroe does. Kirby said, are you capable of getting him down in the ground and tackling him at times? What matchups do you have? He is a football player in college football as I've played against in a long time, because people think he's just a runner, and that's not the case. He has a tremendous arm, and he can do things with his arm talent that other people can't. He can reach spots on the field and get it there faster than you can break on it, better than most arm talent people have. So it's a tremendous challenge to defend a guy like him. And again, sometimes I get these quotes, and they're a little out of order, that I'm reading it, and I look like an idiot, but I'm not. I went to Kennesaw State. I'm smart. Last season, Jalen Milroe threw for just under 3,000 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. It was a good season. He's off to another good season. There's no doubt about it. 0 turnovers, 0 interceptions. I think that's what I should have said, 0 interceptions. And maybe I have that wrong. Maybe I looked at the wrong statistic before making this video. If I did, it'll be the first and only time I've ever been wrong about anything, as you all know. Now, let me get back to where my points were. Where was I? Filler words. So this year he's thrown for 590 yards, 8 touchdowns through the first 3 games of the season. He hasn't played a defense like Georgia's, though. Wisconsin is a nice little team, and South Florida is not a good team. And they were able to run on Alabama. And that's a whole nother thing for a whole nother video. What I do know is that Jalen Milroe can bring his best against the best opponents. He wasn't great against Michigan, but he was getting, the snaps over his head, at his feet. That wasn't his fault they lost to Michigan in the playoffs last year, but he is an incredibly special talent because of how he can run the ball and make defenses honest. But he also has the ability to launch the football 60 yards down the field, and sometimes the ball is where it needs to be. And he's got playmakers. He's got a good offensive line. He's got a stable of backs behind him. This is a strong offense, but it still runs through him. And if you're Kirby Smart, Glenn Shum, and the rest of that defensive staff, that's probably keeping you up at night a little bit this week. How do we stop this guy? He's beat us once. Wasn't necessarily all because of him, but he made enough plays. He beat us last year. He can beat us this year. That's what they got to be thinking. And the kid is only better. Now, there are reports out there that Alabama is, implementing all, 50 plus new plays just for this week. I find that hard to believe because that's a lot. That's a lot to throw in a quarterback in 1 week. 50 new plays. Boom. Make sure you learn them. Make sure you execute them at a high rate, right, against the number 1 team in the country. Number 2, whatever. It's going to be tough. Whoever executes the game plan, their specific game plan, is going to win this ball game. Georgia's got to stop Jalen Milroe. I'm sure they've got a plan to do it. We'll see if they can execute it. Thanks for watching this video. Hope you learned something. Get your Bulldog today, and I'll see you over on the website.